Hi, thanks again for tuning into Sin's Workshop. So, today we're going to be talking about The Burning by Laura Bates. This is a really, it's a tough issue. It deals a lot with, cyberbullying and slut shaming and bullying at schools. And I think it's an exceptionally well novel. I really did connect to this novel a lot because high school was tough for me. Not that I did what she did in this novel, but there was an incident for me with a boy who I rejected, who then started spreading rumors about me, and it kind of spiraled out of control because he was an ex-boyfriend of mine. So I definitely connected with this novel very strongly. And I have to say, I really did love the execution of the novel itself. I think Laura Bates did an exceptionally well done bringing such a tough topic to life. So let's get into it. Like I said, this book is about bullying. It is about cyberbullying as well, and slut shaming. So it follows Annie. Her and her mom moved to Scotland. They changed their name to her mother's maiden name, and they are trying to escape Annie's mistakes. So she was peer pressured by her boyfriend at the time to take photos of herself. And when she finally said she didn't want to anymore, he instantly broke up with her, and he started spreading the photos all over the place. I know a lot of you are thinking, well, yeah, that's what she gets for taking those pictures. Right. Anytime you take a picture of yourself, I think we all have this understanding that on some level it might escape to the public. As much as we want our lives to be private, they're not as private as we would hope. But she did send those photos in confidence. She was sort of blackmailed into sending more photos, and it kind of spiraled out of control. This was a bad guy who took advantage of her. And then when she finally said no, which is probably what she should have said in the beginning, I'm not disputing that, he spread the pictures online. But I don't think our mistakes justify the type of bullying she receives in this novel. It was horrific, and I don't think any of us can look back at high school and think we were just super innocent and think, oh, well, we'd never do that. I think it's all about, we all should have the judgment to not make mistakes. But, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. And I don't think our mistakes should haunt us like they haunt Annie. That's my personal take on this. I feel really bad for Annie. The reader feels bad for her because we understand she made a mistake, but she's in high school. She did something stupid, but it went way out of control. And I love how Bates addresses such an issue like this. Her friends, they stick by her, but when it gets too hard to stick by her, they kind of turn her backs on her. And I think that also showcases the peer pressures of high school. In high school, you're under a lot of pressure academically and socially to sort of fit in. So her friends kind of separate themselves from her. They turn their backs on her. But her new friends, when the bullying starts up again, her new friends, they stick by her. They understand that she shouldn't be haunted for her mistakes. They stand up for her, they stick by her, and through that, through this unity of friendship, she's able to finally put everything to rest. You know, she stands up for herself. She makes an announcement. She says, you don't get to do this. She's like, yeah, I did that, but what you're doing is not good either. I mean, all this bullying that arises, I think it makes a really profound statement to the reader. And I think it really addresses a lot of the peer pressures that young girls face in today's society. Just look at kids today. You know, you have young girls at 7 getting all dolled up and wearing makeup. And, you know, when I was that age, I wore, you know, slacks, and I didn't get all dolled up like that. Like, I think there's a lot of peer pressure today, not just on girls, but, you know, on boys as well, to sort of be this macho boy, you know, toxic masculinity. And I think there's a lot of peer pressure on girls to sort of be a sex symbol for boys. But her mistake doesn't mean she's asking for it. You know, no one asked for it. No one asked to be harassed and assaulted and bullied on such a level. And I love how Bates kind of addresses all of these topics in this novel, especially because she's kind of highlighting the past and how nothing's really gotten that much better. I mean, yes, we've made a lot of strides in equality, but we're still not there yet. And she uses the witch trials to sort of highlight this. You know, young woman, she was raped. No one believes her because he's a nobleman. And then when he dies at sea, they blame her, said she cursed him. And, you know, I think there's a lot of symbolism in the story. You really have to read it to really get it and connect to it and really understand what Bates is trying to tell, what Bates is trying to convey to the reader and society with her storytelling. And that's pretty much what I liked about it. I love how you're able to connect to Annie. I love how you're able to, or Anna, sorry. I love how you're able to really understand the standpoint of this novel. I mean, there's so much bullying in today's society, and I love the mother-daughter relationship as well. You know, the mother isn't disgusted by her daughter. I think in a lot of media, you know, a lot of television shows, you know, that are dramatized, whenever something like this happens, the parent doesn't really stick by the child for their mistake. They're just like, well, you did this and now look what's happening. Instead, her mother, you know, she sticks by her through it all, and when the bullying starts up again, she's like, why didn't you tell me? She's like, we can do this, we can stick together. You know, she sticks by her daughter, you know. She understands her daughter made a mistake, and she stands up for her daughter as well. She goes to the dean of the school who wants to expel Anna because of this, and she's like, no, you're not expelling my daughter. This is something that happened a year ago that's coming back to haunt her. You need to address the fact that she's being bullied, and you need to deal with the bulliers. You know, she's addressing this fact that it's easier to sort of ignore the problem rather than deal with it head on because it might be too hard to deal with it. What she's saying is, you need to teach these kids some respect. You know, you need to teach them that mistakes shouldn't haunt them for the rest of their lives, you know. And I'm not saying all mistakes, you know, there are some mistakes out there that should be punished, you know. I'm just saying this is just an example of a mistake. You know, I think a lot of us make these small mistakes, and then they just come back to haunt us and sort of tear us apart. And what I like is how she deals with this gender gap, gender discrimination. You know, she is addressing that with the boys, like, oh, well, they're boys. Boys will be boys. Well, the boy who's doing all the bullying, he's not being punished at all, and he should be. You know, he's creating pornography of a young adult. He's creating so much hate for this one girl because she didn't want to submit to him. And I think it says a lot about society. And I love how Bates sort of addresses all of that together. I mean, once again, you really have to read the book to really just understand, not understand, but to really see everything that Bates is highlighting, everything that's wrong with society still. I mean, we've come a long way, the suffrage movement, equal pay, but there's still a lot, there's still so much going on in the world that highlights the separation of gender. And I love how Bates really addresses that. In this high school setting, it's realistic, it's strong writing, it's powerful, compelling storytelling. You're bridging the gap between the witch trials in Scotland to what's happening to Anna right now, and they fit. They go together. It's a little interesting how she does it. It does really spark uniqueness as far as writing goes, but it really highlights something. It's an awakening for the reader. For me, I was just like completely blown away by the story. And I love the ending. I love how Anna is really empowered by herself. She's empowered and she puts everyone in their place, and she says, no, you don't get to do this to me. I made a mistake. I own that. But you don't get to make me feel like I am insignificant and not worth anything, like I'm not a human being. I love that. It's an empowering moment for readers, and I think this is a book everyone should read. Young girls, young men. I really think everyone should read this novel. I give it 4.5 stars, and ultimately I really do highly recommend this novel. So once again, this was The Burning by Laura Bates. Definitely recommend it. Please check it out from your local library if money is too tight. And if money is not too tight, please support your local bookseller. You can get the book on bookshop.org, which donates some of the proceeds to indie bookstores that need help. Or you can get it on Barnes & Noble. But please, whatever you do, don't go onto Amazon and buy the book. They get enough business as it is. They don't need books. It's the bookstores that need our business. So on that note, if you like this, please don't forget to like it. And you can follow me on Spotify or Google for more reviews coming up. I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and as always, happy reading. Hi, thanks again for tuning in to Say's workshop. Hope everyone's having a great day. So today we're going to be talking about Sisters of Sword and Song by Rebecca Ross. You know what? I ended up liking this novel a little bit more than I thought I would. I was intrigued by the premise of it, that's for sure. That's why I picked it up in the first place. I thought the cover art was very beautiful. And there was something about it that reminded me a little bit of Greek mythology. Today I'm joined by my son, who's looking at me like I'm a crazy person. But in any case, what I really found intriguing of this novel was really the world building and the mythology that Ross devoted to her storytelling. She created her own mythology, and I thought it was really good. I thought it was really enriching. I thought it was very compelling because it was very reminiscent of Greek and Roman mythology, and it had this powerful impact. I mean, Evadne, she and her sister, they come from the fallen god, He chose to give up his immortality and his godlyhood to be with the people. As for other people, magic users are all descendant of gods themselves, who at one point or another, they came, they mingled, had kids, spread their blood. I don't know if you can hear my son in the background playing with his toys. But in any case, so that's what I thought was really enriching about this novel, I loved the mythology. I loved how it laid out the foundation and the groundwork for the world building and for the storytelling. I thought it was ultimately very captivating, and I have to say, I loved it because it also impacted the sisters as well, and it impacted their growth. It has a really strong effect on who these girls are. They come from a fallen god, they're olive farmers. They farm olive, to make fresh pressed olive oil. They are olive farmers. And their prospects, being descendant from a fallen god aren't really high. A lot of magic users, they are part of the hierarchy. And as you can imagine, they like to think of themselves as very special individuals. So for these girls, it's sort of like a taboo to be descendant from this god, but they don't think so at all. They revere and respect their ancestor completely, and I think that's really good. And it also showcases how different the two sisters are. I mean, Halcyon, she joined the army. She's always been very strong, and her sister, Injured, has always wanted more. She's always wanted magic in her life, and she does end up getting magic in her life, but in a very different way. And I think it says a lot about her character because she grows exponentially throughout the novel. I really have to say I prefer Evadne towards her sister, because when the novel opens, you sort of have this idea of who Evadne's sister is, and she's running away from the law. And the reason she's running away from the law is pretty stupid. It is kind of stupid of her character, and I wasn't a fan of that one thing. It just doesn't fit with the context of who we're supposed to believe her sister is, and it works more of like just a plot device to create tension and to progress the story forward. I think that sort of diminishes it just a little bit, because it's just, like I said, I just didn't get why Halcyon was running away. It was an accident. You would think her general would know her, and he does. He says, like, why would you do this? Like, you know me well enough. I pretty much raised you in this army. You were like my most trusted one. Why would you do this? So it doesn't fit with their relationship, and you get to see the clear disappointment of him. You get to see the clear disappointment of Halcyon in her actions, because even she regrets her actions. So at least there is that. Even she acknowledges it was kind of stupid of her to be running away. Whenever you run away, you make yourself look guilty. End of story. And she's not guilty, but there's a lot of tension in the hierarchy. There's something has happened with the queen, the general's sister sort of manipulating a lot of things. There's lots of underhanded darkness to the story, and I think Ross really highlights it very well. She highlights all this darkness. She highlights the corrupt nature of the magic users, and how they're sort of abusing their power at the expense of pretty much everyone. They want to be the only ones with the power. They don't want people, relic hunters, to go looking for magical items. They want this, difference. They want the rich to remain rich and the poor to remain poor. Sorry, my son just took off his sock. He's always taking off only one sock. Love you, little boy. In any case, I like how there is a lot of tension created. I like how there's lots of development for Evadne's character. And I love her devotion to her sister. I'll say this. For sisters who haven't seen each other in years, they hold on to their memories of each other very strongly. They hold on to their love of one another. They don't think one is better than the other. better than the other, and they have such great strengths to them. Evadne thinks that as she was injured as a child, so she has a limp. She thinks of herself as lesser than her sister, and she sees herself in her sister's shadow. So the novel is really about her escaping that shadow of her sister. There's lots of allegories to it, lots of reminiscing on the mythology of the land. And she has to prove herself, not to anyone else, but to herself. She proves to herself that she is just as capable as anyone else, that she is as compassionate and strong as anyone else. And she's very intelligent. A lot of people look down at her, again, because of her bloodline. But she's very intelligent, she's very charismatic, she's very clever, and she's very strong. And in the end, she's the hero of the day. She is the hero, and I love that. I love how she becomes the hero. And I love how the dynamics change. I love her relationships with other characters. I like how they grow and they flourish and they develop. And I think it's very intriguing to see how the story evolves. I think it's very intriguing to see how it grows. And so once again, this is Sisters of Sword and Song. If you love mythology, you're definitely going to love this novel. I do give it 4 stars. I really wasn't a fan of Halcyon for a bit of this novel. I much preferred her sister. I've already expressed why. But I loved the mythology. I loved the world building. I loved the character development, and I loved the dynamics. And I loved how the magic was sort of incorporated and structured in this novel as well. And so, Sisters of Sword and Song. You can go ahead and purchase it on bookshop.org. I highly recommend purchasing books on bookshop.org because a percentage of all proceeds do go to local booksellers. And it'll tell you in checkout how much of your purchase is going to go to booksellers. And I think that's really great. If money is too tight, which I know for a lot of us it is, check out the book from your local library. Support your local libraries because they are a great resource for the community. And please do not forget to support me. There is a link in the description to become a supporter on Anchor. For just 99 cents a month, that money goes towards making this podcast even better. And there's so many things I would like to do with this podcast. Or you can just support me by following me on Spotify, or following me where you get your podcasts. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. And as always, happy reading.